Please click on the subscribe button so you get notified when the latest content drops. Now, let's kick it.
Are you concerned that this docuseries, America's Team, the gambling is Cowboys, might very well expose the very thing that people complain about when it comes to you? As brilliant as you are, you're stubborn as hell because you've been there. And this is what you've done. And you're highlighting and crystallizing what you went through in order to get the Dallas Cowboys to be worth, according to the latest reports, $12.8 billion, at least $2 billion more than any other, NFL franchise, and then some. Is it a concern of yours at all that this very series we're talking about on Netflix right now will reveal, hey, Jerry's got some good points, but this is also the very thing that gets in his way?
You know how much I appreciate interest, being relevant.
Yes.
And I know you know that.
Yes, I do.
And you in your own way, or maybe a case for old Jerry, when sometimes you're as critical as you are. Yeah. But relative to, I'm going to go all the way back. Sure. Now, this isn't the kind of stuff that serving in the service, or it's kind of stuff that so many Americans, so many people will go through, losing loved ones and what have you. But my experience in college, I had to really call on it to play. I thought it hurt me worse than the rest of them. My trainer used to say, Jones, you got the lowest tolerance for pain of any kid we've ever had at this school. Mm-hmm. But I had to call on it to be a part of that football, but I loved it, boy.
Okay.
I loved it. There's no question that going through that and then ultimately having some success when I was a senior conditioned me for getting your ass kicked. There's no question it did. In school, we would have 20 teams out there of players, that many players, as much as 200 players at that time. And sometimes I'd walk out there on the depth chart, and Arkansas Razorbacks are a red team. My jersey that day would be powder blue. Now, you're down the road when you're a powder blue on a red team. Mm-hmm. You should know that right now. Well, you still had to go out there and go do it. You had to get with it. Well, candidly, it's that part of football that for some crazy reason is attractive, is the struggle, the going against the grain. There's no doubt my family upbringing prepared me for a lot of the things I've dealt with the Cowboys. But certainly football, the competition, did. And certainly when we got here in Dallas and bought the Dallas Cowboys, right at the time that I bought the team, within a year, I had 3 $1 billion lawsuits filed against me. One from PG&E in California, one from Arkansas's Public Service Commission, one from the big utility company over there. Right about the time you hit the day, there were articles about how I was a drug dealer, or articles about those kinds of things. The Fort Worth Star-Telegram ran a retraction in talking about how negative I was about my financial at the particular time. All of that was going on weekly, daily. And certainly there wasn't any love lost for us, love lost regarding how good a football team we had, because we won one football team. Mm-hmm. Now, Jimmy, man,
That's crazy. I didn't know any of that. He didn't put that in the documentary, to be completely honest with y'all. Because I watched the documentary, and he was literally, none of this was in the documentary. I'm surprised, Jerry. I'm surprised. What were you up to, sir?
When someone says to me right now that that's all Jerry thinks about is money, I had a little money when I was an idiot and had lost a lot of money. Mm-hmm. I got it back, and I gave it all, plus a lot I didn't have, to get to be a part of football. So being criticized a little bit, being hit on because we hadn't been to a Super Bowl or we haven't been to a playoff game in 30 years, okay? That type of stuff is important that I understand it, but it isn't diddly compared to some of the things that you've experienced and some of the things we've got to do. And I'm talking about how you take it, not how you look forward to doing something about it.
That's fair.
That's a long answer.
No. But it's worthy, and everything about it was substantive. But I would say to you, that's the kind of thing, dare I say, when I'm getting on Jerry Jones, that may very well get in your way. It's been 29 years. You're a 3-time Super Bowl champion. You understand? 3-time Super Bowl champion, Hall of Famer. From a business perspective, universally recognized as probably the best this business has ever seen. But somehow, some way, it's 29 years that you haven't been to a conference championship game, you haven't been to a Super Bowl, you haven't won a Super Bowl championship. And because of what you just highlighted, how you can take it, the Cowboy fans are saying, well, damn it, we can't. It's hard to take. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, you've mentioned 2 things. You've mentioned what you do and say. I hope you think I don't really give a shit about what you say.
Yes.
Okay? I love to hear you say it, and I love to be in it.
I know.
But if you think that causes me to go right or left, I'm out here doing
Trust
something.
me, I know.
Okay,
I
I just
know.
want to be straight with my buddy. Okay,
absolutely.
with that right here. Now, I do want those fans to enjoy winning. Mm-hmm. I do. Mm-hmm. And we're the 6th winningest team in the last 20 years, not counting Super Bowls in the NFL.
Let me add this. No. By the way, more first-team All-Pro players than anybody but the Ravens and the Chiefs. Yeah. I mean, since 1996. Let's get that out the way, too.
Yeah. One of the things I was trying to make the point earlier, I can hang my hat on that. That gives me a little bit of a base to step forward out here on Monday or Wednesday and go to work and go get it. I know that we've been where we had a chance to reach one of those Super Bowls. And I've been to Super Bowls. And I know
one of
we've had a chance to be there. We haven't. And boy, do I get it. I get it. And I know that half or more of these people that are out here looking, okay, are looking because they are not fans of the Cowboys or the situation or what we've got right here, okay? But I also know that that's what makes the game. That's what makes the game. And so it makes me want to show them. That's exactly what I was feeling when I was trying to make the team on football when I was in college. That's what I've been trying to show them since in between college and the Cowboys. And since the day I walked through the door, that's what I've been doing, is trying to show them.
But
Guys, have you heard? Nelson, tell the people.
Shady Mob Productions is an official affiliate of HBO Max. Click on the link in the description and sign up so you can watch hit series like Hard Knocks, Game of Thrones, and House of Dragons.
Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops.
they'll say that you haven't been successful in showing them in recent memory, Jerry. And you are accustomed to success. So if somebody is looking at Jerry Jones and they're listening to you articulate these thoughts and they recognize there's 3 Super Bowl championships, they recognize there was a back-to-back championship. Even when you let Jimmy Johnson go and you brought in Barry Switzer, you lost the next year, but then came back, got Deion, and then recaptured the Super Bowl championship. We've seen what you've accomplished. And it seems that what you used to do, that used to work, not only isn't working, but hasn't worked for quite a long time. And it has folks wondering, Jerry, what defines success for Jerry Jones? Is it about the Super Bowls? Is it about the fact that the value of your franchise? What is it about? What do you say to that?
Well, that's very fair. First of all, that's very fair, okay? But it's also wrong what you just said, and that is I'm used to success. What I really am is used to getting my butt kicked.
Okay.
I've had some shots of success. By the way, if you really look at football, I don't care how you touch it coaching, touch it playing, touch it fans, touch it any way you want to. The percentage of elation, the percentage of total elation relative to time spent is one of the smallest percentages there is doing anything. Okay. It's hard to feel good playing football. It's hard to feel good because the competition is what it is out here, and that's certainly alive and well in the NFL. There is no question that I can get gas in my tank, get my butt kicked. There is no question that I can do that right there. And I will tell you right now, and I'll measure it against any other part of walks of life I have, okay? I do have some days when I'm smiling, and I do feel good about it. Do I, when things are not going good in one area, do I stick my head in the hole like an ostrich and lean a little on over here if something feels good? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And yes, when it's a bad time and a bad deal, I reach over and I'm thankful for this, I'm thankful for that. Think about mama, think about all of those things you do when you handle it not going the way you want to handle it. Now, I've got a lot of stuff that I can point to that have had a fleeting moment of success. But every time I go up there, I say, well, it didn't last long, and when it did, wasn't it before you to get it done? Now, that's my mental state, and that's how I work it. And there's no question that I deal with mostly. And by the way, do I kind of look at something that feels better and think about something that feels better every day when this one's burning a little bit and old Stephen A's wearing my butt out over here? I do. I do that. But confuse that in my mind with taking steps, doing what it takes. I just paid 2 guys last year. Made that the highest paid player in the history of football.
Yeah, we'll get into that. $60 million a year. We'll get into that.
Get into that.
Go ahead.
Okay.
And CeeDee Lamb, $136 million. Yeah, we'll get into that.
My point is, I don't have a locked up hand on signing a big check to make this team better. I'll do it. I will do it.
Okay.
And I'll take the risk to do it, and I have done it, and I'm doing it now, and I'll do it again.
Why haven't you done it with Micah Parsons yet?
Well,
Take your
let me
time.
say it just right.
Take your time.
I just was on a podcast with Michael for about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I invited him to bring Micah and come in since he's got a lot of experience negotiating with me. Michael does. And then by that negotiation 30 years ago, we've remained real associates for 30 years.
Right.
I said, Michael, did you do your contract with an agent? No. No, but that was then. That's
right.
then. This is now. Okay? So I said, Michael, why don't you grab Michael? You're a big fan of his. Think a lot of him. And I do too. Why don't you get him in here? Be sure and pick up what I offered him. Be sure and pick that up when you come through the door on that deal right there. There's right now about 3 entities involved in the Micah Parsons deal that really count, and that's not to dismiss everything about the organization and the Cowboys.
What are the 3 entities?
Micah, me, sitting out there, and about a mile back is that agent. These are the 2 to get it done. Always has. And these are the 2 that be sitting there working it out when it hits the fan, when it's not between the lines on that contract. That's why I'm going to do it.
What exactly happened with you and Micah Parsons that has you in this position where you're so resolute in your stance right now? Exactly what happened?
First of all, I just asked Michael Irvin to grab Micah and come over and let's talk it over.
I agree.
Let's look at it.
I'm talking about what happened last March.
But I'm just saying, that's not resolute. Okay. And you have to take my word we did that. But here's my whole point, is that there is no question that we have negotiations, contrary to the agent's opinion that we're not negotiating. There's no question that we are, in the sense that he knows full well what I'll pay. Knows full well, okay, what we'll pay him. So there's no question that that's going. I'm very comfortable with that. Now let's look at the paperwork. I have Micah for 3 more years. I've got him under contract this year. I can franchise him the next year, and I can franchise him the next year. I have him 3 more years. Now, if you summed up what I'm going to pay him through what I'm going to pay him this year in those 2 years, it is much, much, much less. How about 60% of what I offered him? So I'm pointing out that there's a way that you look at it. What is this all about? What is this about?
That's what I'm getting to.
Stephen A., is that I'm going to say 12, 15% of the players in the NFL get 2/3 of the money. So that means that you've got to, when you start talking about these hundreds of millions of dollar commitments to a player, you've got to make sure you're right. One miss in that area makes up for paying 3 or 4 Pro Bowlers that are paid less than that out here. Those are critical things. That's why Dak Prescott's got all put together in the way that it did, with the deliberateness that it did. And that's why it took us 2 years of just these same circumstances to get to his contract. That's with Dak Prescott. That's been my experience.
I'm going to come at you with it like this, because you are my buddy. I'm unapologetic about that. That's right. You don't give a shit about what I have to say half the time. You're totally right. You're absolutely correct, okay? And I don't give a damn about throwing the criticism when I think it's warranted, but I love you. Here's the deal, Jerry. I've been on the record stating, here's where my discomfort lies. Jerry Jones has established himself as the creme de la creme, one of the elite businessmen in the history of sports. $12.8 billion is $12.8 billion. You're worth over $16 billion according to several publications, okay? Money is no longer your problem, Jerry, okay? All I'm thinking about is you've been negotiating for decades. You've been negotiating before Micah Parsons was even conceived, was even thought about being conceived. That is a child compared to you at the negotiating table. So for somebody as accomplished as Jerry Jones to sit across from Micah Parsons and engage in any kind of negotiation, how does that make sense to anybody outside of yourself? Because we know he's a football player. You're a businessman. I would not sit across from you at the negotiating table. I would send my representative to sit across from Jerry Jones. I'm not going to try to negotiate with you. I don't have a prayer. What are you to expect from Micah Parsons in that regard?
What he's done as much negotiating as I've done, got there by simple miles, not winning awards, but by simple miles. You know the only way to get things done, there's no bargains. The only way to get things done is get to where you're going, where both parties can live with it. Okay. Both parties can live with it. That's the art. But I know that, and that does show. I'm the general manager of this team. I'm not the owner. I am the owner, but I'm the general manager. Have been since the day we opened. All contracts have been under my purview since we've been doing it, and the negotiations associated with it. Although I've got some great people. Number one, Stephen, who's as a chemical engineer, so he ought to know how to negotiate. My whole point is, I fully understand the difference in experience. Now, let me add something to this. Micah Parsons is brilliant, really.
I'm not questioning his brilliance.
He's not only as an athlete, he actually is mentally. And he is very, very, very capable. The only one that I've ever seen that really matched him, and we'll put Michael in there because we did negotiate, was Charles Haley. Maybe one of the best money negotiators that I've ever been around, and there was a player to get it done. So it is very, very possible, because just like you have advisors, they have advisors. And Micah's got agent.
Yeah, David Mulligetta to be exact.
And that agent is within a phone call of talking about any detail that was there and was available with any detail that was there. We have agreed on how long this is going to be, and we've agreed on the amount of guarantees it's going to be.
You and Micah?
The package is the biggest ever paid a non-quarterback. That's where we are.
Right.
That's where we are.
But
because a third party, rather than me and Micah, has got to come in. Why? Because he's got to get his fingerprint on it?
Come on, Jerry.
Come on, please. He's got to get his fingerprint on it. All right? You tell me. I'm just telling you.
Right.
Okay?
I'm not challenging
you. He wasn't there. Well, I'm just telling you, though. I'm not challenging you either. But there's no need for him to come into this agreement except to look at all of the details of the agreement and all the fine print and all of that. But then he's got to sit here and say, well, is that something that Mike ought to live with? Or should he take playing under this year's contract and be franchised for 2 more years after that?
Jerry,
which one?
But Jerry, you told me, think about this. Let's backtrack. Last year we're talking, and you're talking about life and how beautiful life is. You know, having purview over the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, being a GM of the Dallas Cowboys, being around young folks, keeping you young. And there's so much stuff that youngsters don't get. And how the world has changed and how you've had to evolve with these changes. Micah Parsons is not 50. He's 25, 26 years old now. He wasn't around. So when you were doing things the way that you have always done it, he wasn't even born yet. He doesn't know. So he comes into this world now. He has representation. They're telling you this is how business is done these days. All of the other owners capitulate and adapt to that because they recognize these kids are not what they used to be. It's changed now.
Can I interrupt you a second?
Please.
You're not talking to the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. You're talking to the general manager of the Cowboys. And so all these teams, owners, may not be involved. But in this case, I am the general manager. My job is to do the contract. My job is to sit down. What is at issue here, Steve? What's at issue is not whether I should be negotiating the contract. The issue is who I negotiated with. I'm standard. I'm operating in my shoes here. I'm the general manager and have been since I bought the team. So I negotiated Herschel Walker.
What Jerry still fails to understand is the fact that he, like, even though he's the general manager, you're talking to the general manager. General managers talk to their players' representatives to work out deals. There are players, for example, the Lamar Jackson situation where his mother is obviously his agent, and basically they did the deal, I think, together. There are situations where Jerry's form of negotiating is acceptable. I think the CeeDee Lamb and the Dak Prescott deal was somewhat in a similar situation. However, Micah, being who Micah is, being a public face, a public figure outside of football with the podcast, with the things that he's trying to do, being a voice not just for the Dallas Cowboys but in other fields as well. He's acting like a businessman, and he's trying to like negotiate for himself. That's just my thoughts. Let's continue to hear Jerry's thoughts here.
I negotiate all the contracts.
That's right.
Okay. Do I have a lot of help? Do I have plenty of fabulous help to go do it?
Andrew
But that is my job. That's different than the owner. Okay. And if for 1 second, if I had not thought that Micah had within the phone right there, step in the bathroom, go anywhere you want to go, or leave and talk to him, could not have his attorneys. I hope he's got 3 of them. And I hope he's got 3 agents. And I'm not trying to, I know I sound condescending, but I'm not trying to be. There is no question that he had people to advise him. And these things, these contracts are that long. The reason I'm taking this position is what's not in the contract. And that's where in years to come, when you're laying a couple $100 million on somebody, when you're doing that, you want to understand. Now, that's different than the rest of the guys on the team. Okay? Now, that guy right there needs a leadership role. Micah could be one of the best leaders ever. Could be one of the best leaders. But guess what? Other stuff happens along the way. Always does. Always does. Guess who's there? Guess who is there? Wanting to be there, if no other reason, to protect my relationship, protect the Cowboys, and what have you. But as that document said, I mean, I'm there. I'm there with district attorneys. I'm there with all the other guys. That's why I want to do it, and that's why we want to. Michael came in from Saudi Arabia. Called me from Saudi Arabia. Coming in.
Michael Irvin.
Michael
Parsons. Got it.
Coming in, want to talk. Now, he says he didn't want to talk necessarily about a negotiation, but he wanted to talk. Okay. Jerry, can I have your cell number? I don't ever give anybody my cell number.
That is true.
I want to give you my cell number. We negotiate. We go back and forth. We come through. We go the next day. We negotiate. Get it all done. I get a call. I don't want you to call me anymore. Micah, don't call me anymore.
He said
so
that
we
to
haven't
you.
called.
Micah Parsons said to you, I don't want you to call me anymore.
Don't call me anymore. Don't call me anymore.
After calling you.
That's correct.
And igniting a negotiation, he turned around and exchanged numbers and negotiated. And then he called you back and said, don't call. I don't want you to call me anymore.
The agent calls. He says, we need to start a negotiation with Micah. Guy says, well, we have negotiated. We'll send you over the deal. Proverbially, just keep it. I won't tell you where to put it, but just keep it. We're going to start a negotiation. Okay? We've had the negotiation, period.
Jerry, somebody picking up the phone and calling you, negotiating with you. And Michael's a brilliant brother. He's smart. I certainly didn't mean to cast any kind of come across.
And by the way, it's not a signed contract, which makes it no contract.
I understand that. I'm certainly not trying to dilute or minimize his intellect by any stretch of the imagination, what he's capable of. I'm simply pointing to you. I'm saying I get where you're coming from. But Jerry, you are a billionaire. I understand the GM. I'm talking to the GM, not just the owner. But considering your extensive experience negotiating over the years, what about a pass? What about he's 25, he's 26? He made a mistake. All right, I'll talk to his agent because he is an elite player for us. He's going to help us win football games. What about that thought process?
Stephen A., can you look across the first field and look out at the red border? That would be the Thailand.
Yes, I'm looking at it.
I stood there on our last day of mini camps talking with Micah. Have your agent call me. Have your agent call me, yes. Have your agent call me. Have your agent call me. Have your agent call me. Okay. My point is, in the spirit of not doing the old mother-dad deal. How many times have you seen the little rascal so clever go in there and mama told him, you're not going to get it. And goes in to daddy who only sees him after 5 in the afternoon, wants to love him, and says, you can have it, son. You can have that before dinner. And he goes back in and says, Mama, Daddy said I could have it. That's the old mom, dad, been around since the beginning of time. I'm not going to go for that shit here. That's what's happening.
You're not going for it?
I'm not going for it. No.
Does that mean?
No, I'm just sitting down, and what I've said, I've asked people to come in and sit down and work through it. But we've had a very, very strong negotiation. Now, by the way, frankly, it wouldn't have made any difference what the negotiation was. Guess who has to be comfortable for this to work?
Micah.
And who else?
You.
Hello. There's not room for a third. There's not room for a third. This will be a good one. This will be a good one.
Are you willing? Not that you have to, because like you said, you got him under contract for the next 3 years.
Thank you. That's all you need to say.
Yeah, but wait a minute. No, Jerry, because he has asked to be traded. How did that hit you? Based on what you just articulated in terms of a conversation you had with him, Okay, he called you. You didn't call him. You exchanged numbers. Then he turns around and tells you, according to you, don't call me anymore, call my representation. And then, in the aftermath of all of that, he's asking for a trade. How are you feeling at that particular moment? I know you said it's just business. It's a negotiation. But how are you feeling when you heard the news that he demanded or he asked to be traded?
Well, first of all, let's go to the personal aspect of it. I sat with Micah one of the few times that I've done that with a player. I sat with Micah at the Super Bowl, and I sat with him at the Big 12 championship game, he and his family, and we have that kind of relationship. I mean, I feel very comfortable about Micah, the person involved. I feel very, very comfortable about that. So how do I feel about it? How I feel about it is that there takes two to tango here, not three. There takes two. And we can sit down. It's completely ludicrous. You can have papers that high going through, and add two more to his agency, and we'll add one more to the attorneys and go through the detail of a contract. That's BS about you've got to have somebody to do the paperwork and what have you. Do you agree with what I'm saying? Generally, somebody else looks at the paperwork.
I agree with what you're saying, Jerry, if you and Mike are of the same accord. If he is of the mindset that he feels his representation needs to be there with him because that's where his comfort level lies, I don't see anything wrong with that either because that's the way it goes in this day and age with players and representatives.
Thank you. Let me tell you the way it goes too this day and age. Dak came in 3 years ago, and wanted to redo an existing contract. We didn't get it done, and he played under the contract that he had. And then we tried again, and we didn't get it done, and he played under the contract he had. That's the way it goes. That is the way it goes. Yeah. And that's what happened. If you didn't have that, you wouldn't have any order in any of this stuff around the league. So my position is real clear. Now, what am I doing? You hit on something a minute ago. You said, well, Jerry, all your money, all of that kind of stuff, and what have you. This isn't my money. This is the team's money. This is the money that goes to building the team. Every team in the NFL gets a certain amount of money and a certain way to pay it out over the years. Everybody has the same. It is very competitive on who does it better there, just like blocking and tackling, the one that does it the best. And the ones that can get Micah, the greatest supporting cast around him, that's the ones that will end up having the most success. That's what's going on here. It's not about me begrudging Micah getting a dollar that I'm coming out. I don't think anybody misunderstands that. No. I'm sitting here trying to put the team and keep the team in the way that we see is the best way to put it on the field. Now, we need Micah to win. We do need.
Do you feel that way?
Well, of course I do.
Okay.
Of course, I do feel like that. We need him to win, and I'm confident we'll have Micah to win. I can't imagine anybody sitting out for 3 years at all for that kind of go. So I will say this: we sure need to do a good job here. I do. We do. The Cowboys and the terms that we get Micah and the other players to play.
Let me put you on the spot. Are you saying that Micah needs to be willing to sit out for the next 3 years before he wears another uniform other than the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, let me say this, because we passed on that right there. As you well know, an existing player on a team, if somebody is talking to him or his, that is a tremendous violation. And you can get a lot of draft picks if somebody should happen to be talking about that. Other than me, other than an assignee of mine, or other than me, any talk of trading is BS. There's nothing to it. It's just nothing to it because everybody knows that you're not going to play for 3 years. Everybody knows that. That's not going to happen. And everybody knows that Micah's a key ingredient for it. Key ingredient. Does this sound familiar to you? How about Emmitt Smith?
You know where I'm going with that.
I saw it in your eyes.
You know that. You know how I am. Now, this man, I'm glad you brought that up. Let me remind the audience about you and Emmitt Smith. This man won the first Super Bowl championship for you in 92. 93, he's the leading rusher in the league with over 1,700 yards. He's leading the league in touchdowns. He was third in league MVP voting. And you still made him miss the first 2 games because you couldn't reach a contract accord with him. You missed it, went 0-2 before you ultimately signed it because Jimmy Johnson was losing his mind, and then you brought him, and then obviously you repeated the Super Bowl champions. We go back to that.
Well, can we keep going with that, though?
You want a Super Bowl?
And the way you're doing it. Wait, don't just say it that low-tone stuff. I want that Stephen A. stuff. Well, he missed 2 games, but then you rolled out there in front of millions of people and won the Super Bowl. Finish it up.
You won the Super Bowl, but
be fair with your viewers.
I am going to be fair with my viewers by saying this, Jerry Jones. Emmitt Smith, to this day, at that time, the contract was 4 years, $13.6 million, which was a record contract for a running back in the National Football League. You gave him those dollars, but he had to miss the first 2 games after winning the Super Bowl in order to pull it off.
Do you agree that he wanted more? Do you agree that he wanted more than that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. What I'm trying to say is, do you agree that he wanted more than that? And to his credit, by the way, Emmitt Smith and I are business partners. Yes. We do business together. Yes. And I can't tell you how much I think of him and the way to go. But Emmitt, who, my goodness, he defined it. When he stepped back, we started winning. Before we had him, we weren't winning. Before we had him, that season, and stepped back. But candidly, the dream was to have quarterback dollars and be the highest paid quarterback.
That's fair.
And so we had to get our thinking right so that we would be highest paid running back, not highest paid X. Okay. I'm sure if this had been at that time, you'd have been saying, but Jerry, you should pay him like the highest paid player in the NFL.
No, I would have said the highest paid running back. I wouldn't have done that to you. I wouldn't have done that to you, Jerry. I would have said the highest paid running back, not the highest paid everything. No, I wouldn't have given that.
No, but I'm saying that with all due respect to everybody concerned. Let me tell you this. Everybody's family supporting them. Everybody should want, this is America, everybody should want to have the best, the maximum. Because when you're at a spot of demand, that probably doesn't come along again. So everybody should want that. Anybody that has had a chance to do what I've had to do is one of the biggest proponents of getting paid of anybody you've ever seen. I believe it through and through.
You also talked about how hard it was for you to pay primetime Deion Sanders, how you had to walk around and pace around a little bit before you cut that check to get that man here. I remember that story. And you had the money, but it was killing you to give it to him, but you ultimately had to, right?
I got to say this, just because it meant that much. That's about a 30 or 40-minute flight where I grew up from Dallas. And Deion was paid $13 million bonus. Well, about 5 years earlier, all I had was 12. Now you say all you had was 12, but this idiot gave it to buy the Dallas Cowboys at that time. Here I was going to pay him 13 bonus, Deion Sanders. I got Michael first, and I said, this is what we're going to pay him. You good? He said, Deion Sanders, pay the man, pay him. Then I turned around with Troy and Emmett, and then I took it to the entire team and showed them exactly what we were paying him. Do we want him at the time? But then I took and flew back over to my home. And I walked down that old street, saw those old cracks, the same ones I'd seen when a quarter was everything, and a crack in the deal, saw the old tree that I chopped myself a bark off of it. I thought I had lost my way. I've gotten out of perspective on financial. And then I turned around, went back, saw the same guy sitting on the porch that might have been sitting there when I was a kid and coming down the deal. I looked at that old house I lived in. I said, that was then. This is now. We're going for it. We're going for it. And yes, you're right. I did pay Deion more than anybody had ever paid at that time. And I'll do it to win.
And you'll do
I
it.
will do it to win. What you're doing, though, now is you're doing it, which is common. When one gets it, and the NFL player, it's dollars his teammate does not get. Do we agree on that?
We do agree on that.
Okay, there is a limit as to what you can pay. Should I to be doing my job, not win the award on getting the contract signed, I should be winning the award on trying to get it balanced so we can have all the players that we can afford. Okay, great players, yes, but more importantly, how about putting some players out there that can win a Super Bowl?
That's a pretty damn hard argument to make when you're paying Dak Prescott $60 million.
There you go. But last year you were talking, or I don't know if you were or not, to be fair to you. But my point is, if everybody becomes the highest.
Right.
That was a straight shot at Dak. I love that. That was fucking excellent. Stephen A. Smith in 1.5 speed is just tremendous. Like I can understand him, but like his speed, like he is just a fast talker. Jerry Jones, another one. Honestly, Jerry Jones, master of the tongue. He says a lot of BS and says a lot of nothing. Literally, he's just dancing around the Micah Parsons situation to make it seem like it's mainly on Micah, but in reality, Micah's just going about business, how the business is supposed to be gone about. Jerry is just referring to his triplets, because he loves his triplets. Michael, we'll talk about what I saw in the documentary, but Michael Irvin, business partner, Emmitt Smith, business partner. I think even Troy Aikman, in some way or form or fashion, is involved with Jerry Jones' businesses as well. So that's what, like, Jerry, when he goes and he talks about, like, oh, Micah should go and talk to these players, does not understand that it's, let's be honest, people my age, they're very conceited and they're very in their heads, right? So they think they know better. Like, a lot of people my age think they know better and will not go and seek advice from, like, people that are wiser and probably know more. Even with things being like that, I still think the way the business is ran right now in the NFL is very different. Let's get back to this.
Then all of a sudden you've got to have a less of those players, okay, or more. And so you have to think about, that amount of, don't forget, well, it's Micah, any player. Could that get you 3 Pro Bowlers for that player? Well, do you know what the odds of having the 3 available, having 2 of the 3 available for a year or 2? You know what the odds when you pay that money and that you could not have them available, and then the team, nobody would be getting the money. Happened to us last year with Dak Prescott. A couple of weeks after we did it, and we didn't have him for the year. That stuff happens. That stuff is, in a way, you've got to think about that when you're putting your team together.
So is that a way of saying it's worth thinking about the possibility Micah Parsons, because I consider him the face of the franchise. I consider him your best player. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's how I look at him. I don't know how you look at him, so maybe I should ask that question first. How do you view Micah Parsons? I know you think he's a great player and very, very important. I consider him the face of the franchise. What do you say to that?
I'm glad that you recognize that. We got him for 3 years, no matter what.
He's not going anywhere.
Exactly.
Somebody come to you and offer you a couple of first-round picks, a couple of all-pro players.
Best player along. Shake my hand again. We got him. And we got him for 3 more years.
Somebody comes along with a couple of Pro Bowls and a couple of first-round picks, Jerry. What you
I'm not here, no. I got this thing static coming in here somewhere. I'm getting overrun here.
I'm just asking. I want to make sure that nobody has to worry about Micah Parsons going anywhere, because that's how much you value.
Just know this. I'm so proud since you think that much of him. Yes. Please say it often, because we do have him, and we're proud of having him.
You said you're the GM when you're negotiating, and it's not the owner. Were you the GM when you negotiated Dak Prescott's contract, CeeDee Lamb's contract?
Yes.
Folks look at that and they said, had you signed them earlier, Jerry, you saved yourself anywhere from $17 to $30 million, and of everything that you're aiming to do in terms of building a squad, Jerry Jones' stubbornness has gotten his own way because he's waited too long to sign these dudes that he knew he was going to sign all along. How do you respond to that?
Jerry Jones is smarting for some of the ones that I signed too early and didn't see how it was going to pan out talent-wise or injury-wise. And so one too early signing can wipe out one if you signed it too early and bet wrong. That can wipe out waiting on 2 or 3. So the best thing to do is be the option quarterback and play it out to the end of the line, and then maybe not pitch the ball then, either play action and drop back and throw it, or basically pitch it then at that time. I do like to go out to the end, but that's kind of a personal characteristic.
That's a personal characteristic, but does it work in the National Football League, particularly when a team like the Eagles, the reigning defending Super Bowl champions, operate differently? The Chiefs might operate a little bit differently. The Patriots historically might have operated a little bit differently, and it's worked for them because there's Super Bowl titles to point to in recent memory, whereas that has not been the case for the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, we've been dealing with sour caps for a long time now. My first 4 or 5 years, you didn't have one, but we've been dealing for caps for a long time. And like I've told you, while I'm not in any way anything but disappointed we haven't been to a Super Bowl in almost 30, or whatever the time is. I don't even want to think about it, so to speak. But the point is, we haven't been to a Super Bowl. The point is, the same thing is alive and well in this cat that got us to those other 3 Super Bowls as to whatever contribution I made for that to happen. It's alive and well with what I do everywhere. It's how I operate. And I've had some nubs drawn back the way I operate, but then I've had some successes. And so I'm not going to question the instincts. What you do need to know is I will change. In terms of I do change on things, because if you don't change the mirror, then
you're going to change. How you going to change?
I do change.
I'm just asking. I need you to tell me how you think you're going to change. I got to hear this.
If the porch has lost a step, I won't step on that lost step but about twice before I realize that I need to jump over it rather than go over it. Okay. If you work for yourself and you're not willing to change, then who's to change? So yeah, that's the practice you have when you're self-employed.
Let me get specific about another player, Dak Prescott. Is he the answer? Is he the man that can deliver you a Super Bowl championship? I'm counting 2 playoff victories and entering his 10th year, Jerry. That's what I'm counting.
Not only that, I have my actions to prove it. That's what all the deliberation was about for a 2 or 3 year period when we were working through whether to have an extended 3rd contract, first being when he was drafted. And that's what it was all about, to see, and we got another year to look and see about Dak, see about his availability, see about his how he is progressing. And that's what we got to do. And so we got to see, although yes, if you said that, you paid Dak more than if you could have rolled that same negotiation back. But we had the opportunity, and he'll be the first to tell you. And by the way, it does take 2 here now, not just 1. It takes us and it takes the player to agree. But we did this, perfect example, with Dak. We couldn't come to an agreement. He plays. In the meantime, we saw him another year, his 7th year, his 8th year. Boy, we see him doing things, continuing to improve. And that Dak Prescott has continued to improve. We see the age factor, which you may imply availability, injury, that type of thing. But we watched it. So you can rest assured that with all of any warts or all of anything you can think about, when I made him the highest paid player in the history of the NFL, that I thought he was the guy that gave us the best shot to win.
I know what you thought.
It would have been madness.
I know what you thought. But I'm asking you what you think now, because he not only signed a $160 million deal, then he came back and signed a $240 million deal. The brother signed for over $400 million. Jerry Jones has signed those contracts for him, and you don't have but 2 playoff victories to show for that. I'm wondering how you're looking at him today compared to how you looked at him before you signed those contracts.
Well, let's say this. Contracts, just say, roll the clock forward to this time last year. So how am I looking at him today as opposed to this time last year? Because we both know what I was thinking this time last year.
He wasn't in the regular season.
He could take it, but it could come that he can take us to a Super Bowl. I think he can take us to a Super Bowl, and I feel strongly about that. But I had to look at it, and I had to think about it over the years, just as he had to think about whether he was going to sign with us a long-term extension. But we had to look at it, evaluate it. I finally said, look, Dak, we're getting the benefit of his experience. We're getting the benefit of his leadership, which, my goodness, is off the charts. But we're getting all of those benefits as opposed to going out here and starting new or starting with someone else at the spot. And that's why I did it. We didn't do it the year before because we couldn't come together. Sound familiar? Micah?
Yes.
Okay, we're having a tough time getting together. Okay, so did Dak not play? No, he played. And so the point is, has a contract to play. We'll go at it again sometime in the future if that's the case.
George Pickens is here now. You've got CeeDee Lamb, your wideouts, 2 elite wideouts as far as I'm concerned, with Dak.
So, basically, Jerry Jones is doing what Jerry Jones does best, and that's sugarcoating the fact that Dak is not. He made a mistake paying Dak. Dak is not the quarterback that will lead the Dallas Cowboys to a Super Bowl. I'm sorry, we all know this. We've seen how he performs in big playoff games. We've seen what he's done with the breadth of talent around him in an elite level offensive line. Number 1 seed squandered. Dak has had the best opportunity to do something with that Dallas Cowboys team, and he has never delivered. I'm just being honest. When it comes to the Micah situation, it looks like Jerry has dug in his heels in the fact that he has him for this year. He can franchise tag him for another 2 years and make him, I think, like the highest paid position player other than quarterback when he gets into that second franchise tag year. With that being said, though, I do think they are going to come to a deal hours before the Week 1 game because that's just Jerry Jones's style. I think the agent or Jerry will reach out to one another. Deal will be struck. Things will be signed, and Micah Parsons will be a Dallas Cowboy for the next at least 4 years with all as much guarantees as I guess he wants. Jerry's still, though, master of saying absolutely nothing. Master of saying absolutely nothing. The art of the deal. Man, hey, I think Jerry's biggest thing is manifesting things into existence. Perfect time to transition into, actually, my thoughts on the Netflix documentary series on America's team, The Gambler and his Cowboys, where there's a segment or there's a scene in that docuseries where he's talking about his father. And basically, his father called him after he purchased the Dallas Cowboys, and he tells him, hey, he tells him something along the lines, son, you got to keep this thing put together with sticks and stones to make it look real, even if it's not. Because if it's not, then everybody's gonna come after you, and like it's just gonna be hell on earth, right? But if you continue to make it, maybe eventually it'll become real, and that's essentially how Jerry Jones became who Jerry Jones is for the Dallas Cowboys. He was literally holding it up with sticks and stones to begin with, not necessarily having all the money that he necessarily needed to build a team the way he needed it to be built. Michael Irvin, it was already kind of foreseen that Michael Irvin was going to be a Dallas Cowboy, and then he knew that Jimmy Johnson was going to be there. Guys, actually, that docuseries, really quickly, going into like towards the end of the docuseries, when we get in the era after we get the Cowboys' dynasty run, I think the year after, when we get the Michael Irvin trial, I didn't know any of that actually had happened to Michael Irvin. I didn't do any research like on Michael Irvin's past. I just knew he was the Dallas Cowboy number 88, Super Bowl champion, 3-time Super Bowl. I didn't realize there was a video of like him doing like coke in the front of a fucking car, and then there was a whole trial and everything. That was eye-opening to me. And they do an excellent job covering everything, the relationship between the triplets, how they felt during the dynasty, how they felt when they got rid of Jimmy. Barry Switzer basically coming in and being kind of like the polar opposite, and his relationship with Jerry Jones. And then finally also seeing the inauguration. They really do an excellent job in this documentary covering the Dallas Cowboys. You get to see Jerry's world, and Jerry does an excellent job telling you his story, right? Jerry's just, we all know who Jerry is. Jerry's just Jerry, and Jerry is a master on the microphone. Like, it's weird for me to see Jerry in his early days when he first purchased the team and wasn't in front of a camera as much, because when Jerry got on the mic, he was so scared. He didn't have the demeanor or the personality. Now he just loves it. He embraces it. He dominates it, and he says a bunch of nothing, absolute garbage. And we all eat it up, we all put it in our headlines, and we all follow. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back after these messages with our breakdown on the ESPN dropping the Colin Kaepernick documentary series that was supposed to be produced or directed. I think it was directed and produced by Spike Lee. We'll be right back after that.
Guys, join me, Alex the Man Angelov, and check out A&A Radio, where we're going to be talking about the latest and greatest financial news, investments, banking, and personal finance. Check out the channel, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops.
Guys, you're watching a Shady Mob production. Make sure to follow the Shady Mob podcast where we break down all the latest content and talk about life. Please make sure to share, like, comment, and subscribe so you can be notified when the latest content drops.